The Philadelphia Eagles appear to be very beatable. We'll tell you how the Cowboys can do it next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. In today's episode, it is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we are previewing the Week 12 matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. And Landon, this is a game. The Cowboys are 4-5-1. You lose this game, the season is, for all intents and purposes, over, right? You still have to obviously get through the rest of your schedule, but there's no chance of making the playoffs. But if you win it and you're 5-5-1 with a win over the Eagles, suddenly you're kind of right back in things.
Yeah, especially since, and I'm sure we'll get to this throughout the show, it feels like the Eagles are kind of a ticking time bomb a little bit, right? So if you play this right and you win this game and the certain people get a certain amount frustrated, it feels like that locker room could explode pretty soon. Sure. And then maybe, look, they have felt like, despite having some impressive wins these last few weeks against, teams on paper, they haven't always been impressive during those wins. And they've had some pretty crazy boneheaded mistakes made by their coaches at the end of those games that they've survived. It just feels like, there is certainly there are paths where the Eagles go on and make the playoffs. They're the #1 seed and then they're in the Super Bowl, for God's sakes. Again, there's certainly that path, but there is also a path where the Cowboys are uniquely suited to win this game potentially, and by doing so, push the Eagles over the edge, and they start the collapse that you need in order to make your way into the playoffs somehow.
And honestly, there's a chance that happens and that it doesn't affect the division, and Philadelphia still wins the division.
Absolutely.
But it kind of sends them into some turmoil, which, hey, that's the second best thing if the Cowboys aren't going to make the playoffs. So let's talk about how the Cowboys can do that. And I want to start with their offense. In week 1, when these two teams faced, the Cowboys offense went right up and down the field in the first 2 drives of the game. But in the second half, it was very clunky. The offense did not score, I think, at all in the second half. Now, the Eagles didn't have Jalen Carter. They added Jalen Phillips since that game. How did the Cowboys score on offense against this really good Philadelphia defense?
I think, again, they need to find a way to continue to be a balanced football team, because if they try to come out and just be only throwing the football, or if they get into a negative game script where the Eagles know that they're going to be throwing the football, that's when I think they're going to run into some trouble, right? Because Jalen Carter, these guys inside, they'll be able to pin their ears back and come after him a little bit. The Cowboys have got to find a way to play a little bit more balanced game. And I think that they have the kind of run game and the bodies to physically do that in a unique way that maybe not every team does. Look, this is really going to be, I've heard some people talking about, this is a legacy. I think it was Peter Schrager saying this is a legacy game for Dak Prescott. I think this is a legacy game for this iteration of this offensive line. Like, this is the time for it all to come together. We've invested quite a bit in this group, and you're going against an elite defensive line. There's no two ways about it. If you want to be the kind of offensive line that the Cowboys need you to be, these are the kind of games that you need to be the tip of the spear. You need to come out and protect Dak at times when he has to throw the ball, and then you need to be able to help the Cowboys control this game by helping them run the football and wear down the interior and the exterior now with Jalen Phillips and Smith coming back, the pass rush that's coming into this game, because otherwise it's going to look pretty ugly. Otherwise it's going to be Dak on the ground, which is no way to win this game.
One of the things I'd like to see is just Philadelphia's pass rush is really good. So use more 6 and 7 man protections, and whether that's keeping Javonte Williams in the backfield, keeping a tight end in the block. Like, I would love to see more of Brevin Spanford, lined up over Jalen Phillips and chipping and then maybe releasing in routes. This Philadelphia secondary is very good. but I do trust George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb to get open after a certain amount of time. We saw in week 1, like CeeDee Lamb had 4 drops and he still had 110 yards. George Pickens didn't have a big game, but he did draw a big pass interference. I know Quinnen Mitchell's really good, but you can beat these guys. So if they can give Dak an extra half second just to buy some time and let these guys get open, I think they can have big days.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is good on good. George Pickens is really good too, and so like I agree. Like they shouldn't be afraid to attack the secondary just because they've had some success against some other teams. I think this is a good matchup for the Cowboys, not necessarily the one you want, but this, I think the Cowboys can win against these guys. I don't think Adoree Jackson is going to glove up, your third wide receiver the way he has the last few weeks somehow. And I think that, there's opportunities for them to kind of make some passes up the seam as well, if they want to kind of start to try to find a way to work Ferguson back in attacking that way. So yeah, I don't think the Cowboys should, be afraid. They're going to play a ton of man coverage. That's the kind of thing that they're doing a lot more now of. You're going to see some man coverage. So I think it's going to be, and I think a lot of teams don't have to worry about that. But with the Cowboys wide receivers, I think it means opportunities for them. And there's going to be chances that they can have some really big plays here.
Yeah, this is a big Dak game, not legacy defining, because I think that's also stupid. Because here's what I was saying about that. I think Dak could have 5 touchdowns in each of the next 3 games. They could beat all 3 of these teams. But if the Cowboys go 8-1, nobody's going to care, right? That's why this is stupid. But Dak has played really well against divisional opponents. He's played really well against Philadelphia at home. I know Vic Fangio has given him some problems in the past. But man, if they can block it up a little bit, there's going to be open receivers. And I just think with the way that Dak played in the first matchup, where he was just so calm, he had Philadelphia on their heels. He's kind of uniquely suited to play well in this game. And I expect him to have a big game.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone's able. The Cowboys are one of the teams that are uniquely able to deal with the heavy pass rush, man coverage combo that the Eagles can provide. And then they obviously switch. I mean, look, it's Fangio, so they're going to switch it up. They're going to play shell coverage. They're going to play cover 2. You'll see some quarter stuff. So they're going to mix it up a little bit. And Dak is uniquely suited to be one of the guys who can kind of handle the sort of methodical nature that it requires, like to play a Fangio defense, to understand that he's going to play shells. So you're not always going to have the deep shot, but Dak is the guy that can kind of repetitively march the ball down and win with the short passing game as well. And then when they get opportunities, when it's man coverage, we have the wide receivers to beat the corners, either one of the 2 corners, in a way that not every NFL team does. So yeah, I think the Cowboys are uniquely suited on offense to actually get something generated against this Philadelphia defense.
So the Dallas scored, I believe it was 20 in week 1 against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
They're at home. They're healthy on the offensive line. Do they get to 24 this week? That's kind of the number that I'm circling. If they get to 24, I think they have a really good chance of winning this game outright. Do you think they get there?
I think, that, I mean, I think that they can get there. I think it's going to all depend on kind of how they survive the early part of this game and how well they play. Like if they're able to grab control of this game, they can get into a positive game script. That's going to certainly help this situation. But if they get behind, and again, early especially, and they're having to throw the ball from behind early in this game, it's just going to put the Cowboys in a difficult spot. I still think that they can at that point. But it may be one of those things where, it's a flurry of points as the Eagles are trying to play prevent defense in the fourth quarter, right? So I think if the Cowboys are able to maintain balance, or at least just be efficient in the run game so that they can keep the Eagles guessing, I think that they can score 24 points at home.
Philadelphia's allowed 23 or more points only 3 times this year. 26 to the Rams, 25 to the Buccaneers, and then 34 to the Giants in that really weird Thursday night football game. So their defense has been outstanding as of late. 9 points to the Lions, 7 points to the Packers. It's going to be a real challenge for the Cowboys to get to 24. They have the weapons to do it. They have the quarterback. I can't wait to see what happens. Let's talk about the Cowboys defense, because that's the unit here that really struggled in week 1, at least in the first half. Will they be better this time around? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both. There has never been a better time to jump in on the action. And if you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere that Prize Picks operates, including Texas, Georgia, and California. I love that you can pick your favorite players, whether it's Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Luka Doncic, whoever, to see how your predictions play out. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. Landon, let's talk about the Cowboys defense in this one. 6 days rest, so a little bit short rest here. But you do have Quinnen Williams. You have Logan Wilson. Your 2 corners, Kalen Carson and Savon Ravel, got some more snaps under their belt. Pretty healthy on that side of the ball. It appears Solomon Thomas is going to be ready for this game. How do you think the Cowboys defense matches up with this Philadelphia offense?
I certainly think they match up much better than they did the first time they played the Eagles, right? And man, the Eagles offense has been on a real journey since we last saw them, right? Like even early on, it wasn't looking great. I mean, the fact that the Eagles weren't able to score more than 24 points at home against what we didn't know necessarily at the time, but was a very, very bad defense, kind of speaks to some of the issues that the Eagles have faced throughout the season. So I think for the Cowboys, it starts with just making them one-dimensional. Right. And the thing about the Eagles this year is that hasn't been terribly difficult. The Eagles will continue to run the ball. They'll continue to pound their head on there, but they're not getting the explosive plays that they got before. They're not getting the same run blocking seemingly they got before. Now, obviously, with Lane Johnson out, and we'll see what the deal is with Juergens, it's hard to believe that they're going to get, somehow better run blocking than they were before. And then once you get them to be one-dimensional, it becomes about protecting Hurts. It becomes about how he executes just in a pure drop-back situation. And that really makes this Eagles offense, despite the talent on the outside with A.J. Brown and Smith, it makes this Eagles offense just more middling. It makes it more middle of the road when they have to just execute the drop-back passing game because they don't throw the ball over the middle past 10 yards. It limits how they can attack defenses. Everybody knows exactly how they want to attack defenses, so they're not really catching anybody by surprise. It's the Eagles' offense is not as bad as the Cowboys' defense was, pre-bye. But I wonder now that with all the additions that the Cowboys have had, and the kind of just, it feels like a ticking time bomb with all the A.J. Brown talk and everything. I just wonder if the Cowboys defense isn't close enough to the Eagles offense at this point to really kind of make this interesting and potentially really give them some trouble just because of the matchups on paper.
It's one of those things where if Dallas can keep the score down, like in the first 20 minutes of the game, I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see a lot of those frustrations come out from A.J. Brown and from Saquon Barkley. I mean, they're clearly frustrated right now. If you can get them where they feel like, it's just another one of those games, maybe you see that kind of manifest in the game. My concern is that they're going to have some big plays early, kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. But my question for you is, we've seen more 5-man fronts from the Cowboys over the last couple of weeks with really 3 down linemen and then 2 edge rushers that a lot of times are standing up. Is that the correct strategy against Philadelphia? Because my concern is, I think that'll help you stop the run, but you have fewer guys in the middle of the field if Saquon gets past the first level. What's the correct way to play this?
Well, I mean, I think you're examining the problem with the Eagles offense this year is that because of the kind of general step back of success. I mean, they just aren't as efficient as running the football. Saquon Barkley just isn't running at the same clip that he was last year. We talked about the run blocking not being as good. That's, statistical. You just go look at the yards before contact on the Eagles. It's dropped like almost a half yard, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that it's, when you're not threatening teams with the run game, I think you can stop the run, especially now that you've improved that defensive line a little bit. I think you can stop the run with 4. And again, what another data point kind of working towards that favor, no Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson is a huge part of that. So I think with Fred, I think it's Fred Johnson. Is it Fred Johnson? Yeah. It's not his brother, just so you know. But I think is not clearly is not as good as Lane Johnson, but I also think is probably was a little bit exposed just playing all those snaps. He is normally out there. They do a lot of 6 offensive lineman stuff, but that's still different than starting and playing right tackle at full time. So yeah, I think the Cowboys should at least try doing it with 4 up front. And if they need to, because if Barkley's kind of slipping through or something like that, your linebackers aren't getting where they need to, then maybe you try it with 5 and then see how that works.
I would like to see in this game, to me, this is the perfect overshown game to use him as a spy. He played a decent amount of snaps last week against the Raiders. Have him in this game where he's the spy, and then after a second or two, you send him into blitz kind of as that 5th rusher. I don't think you need to blitz a lot in this game. I think in previous, iterations of this Eagles team, you kind of had to blitz because a 4-man front was just never going to get to Jalen Hurts. But now with Hurts, being relatively inaccurate throwing the ball down the field, you kind of want to keep him in the pocket and force him to beat you with his arm. And if he beats you down the field with a 40-yard, moon ball, so be it. But I think that's the way to play it here is rush your front 4, collapse the pocket, and keep Overshown or Kenneth Murray or whoever you want it to be as a spy if and when he leaks out of the pocket.
Yeah, I think this could be a big, I imagine a Clowney and Odigizua defensive end pairing with your 2 big guys inside, right? Because
Solomon Thomas, I think Solomon Thomas is another really good edge in
100%. And especially since he played edge, that's another great example, because a guy that you're not necessarily trying to, run underneath the table to get around to him, but you're collapsing the pocket into Hurts. You're not letting him escape. You certainly aren't giving him any gaps to slip out the front to pick up a first down and get all that EPA on QB scramble. Yep. You want to keep him in the pocket, make him feel the pressure, and then if he wants to escape, he's got to go out the back of the pocket, which sometimes he does. And then when he does that, that's when you really punish them, get him down on the ground quickly. But I think that's what I'm talking about. Like the Quinnen Williams addition really kind of changes the angles of how the Cowboys can especially attack someone like Jalen Hurts, because now you've got real, tip of the spear type guys in the middle of your defense that can be the focal point of how you attack a quarterback who does not like pressure in his face.
The last time the Cowboys played Philadelphia, they ran zone coverage 100% of the time.
And he struggles with that.
Do you think you see that again this week?
Yeah, because he struggles with it. He struggles versus zone coverage, and I think so. I think that's you're going to see a lot of it, because you also just going to keep eyes on Hurts, but you got to make sure that you're getting pressure on him. That's the key, because otherwise, that's where you're going to see guys like Brown and Smith work their magic. Smith especially is just a magician versus zone, so you really, really got to be careful.
One of the players to keep an eye on this game is Dallas Goedert, because he's having a big season. And with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith struggling, Goddard's been the guy that Jalen Hurts is looking for on a lot of these 2nd down, 3rd down plays to get them to 4th and 1 or to convert the first downs. We'll see. The Cowboys have not been very good at covering tight ends this year. Now, maybe having Overshown back will help. You get Malik Hooker back, maybe that'll help. But he's the one guy that I could see having a big day against the Cowboys.
Unless he's having to stay in and block because there's no Lane Johnson. That's another benefit. Yeah. So, but yes, definitely when he goes out en route, they got to put a body on him, because the Cowboys have struggled against tight ends.
One more thing I want to mention. Cam Jurgens has been dealing with some injuries. It's not yet clear if he's going to play in this game. I know a lot of Eagle fans kind of hope he doesn't play, because he's been kind of a liability out there. He's just not one of these players that can play well while he's banged up. Brett Toth has been his replacement, but that means that your starting center, your starting right tackle are out. Tyler Steen, the right guard, is a good player, but I think that right side of the offensive line is where you can attack. I got to believe with Johnson out and with potentially Juergens out, if the Cowboys are going to blitz, it's going to come from that side.
Yeah, and the good news is that you feel like a guy like Ezraku is heating up, especially on early downs, like where he's playing the run well, and he's probably going to get some better opportunities to kind of get some quick pressure if they're going to try to throw the ball and play their normal game of get to fourth down and then try to convert the short fourth downs.
All right, let's give our predictions. Week 12, Cowboys versus Eagles. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your favorite team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's all incredibly frustrating, but that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price that you see is the price that you pay. I love the Game Time app for so many different reasons, but my favorite is that I can pull up the app and get the exact view from my seat before you buy. And honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I bought tickets for NFL games before. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day. 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Landon. Week 12, Cowboys, Eagles. Who wins?
I think the Cowboys can win this game, man. Like I don't think I would have felt confident about this game if all the kind of confluence of things that have happened recently hadn't happened, right? The addition of Quinnen Williams, the kind of staling out of the Eagles offense, the injury to Lane Johnson. I just think that it's all of that has moved the defense and offense closer to each other. And I always thought that the Cowboys offense versus the Eagles defense is just, I mean, that's what you pay money to see, right? Like that's strength versus strength, right? So however that was going to play out was however that was going to play out. I think the Cowboys playing at home, it's just the Cowboys played the Eagles really tough the first time in a way that I think a lot of us didn't expect. I think that they think that they can win this game. I also think that, a great point brought by Coach Stretch Smith on our squad show, I think it was, that this is the first home game since the Marshawn Nealon situation. And so there's just going to still be a lot of emotion. And I think the Cowboys are going to ride that emotion and win this game. I think you're right, though. The 24 points is probably the line of demarcation. I actually think that despite our desires, I think that we're going to get a game from our kicker. So I think it's going to be a last minute field goal. So I'm going to say 27-24, maybe on a record breaking 70-yarder. How about that? I'm going for full drama on this pick.
I do think of all the games this year, this is where you're going to hear the loudest Cowboys crowd. I think they're going to be fired up. I think they're going to be into this game. Not because, this is a great Cowboys team or anything, but this is a big rivalry game, and it's a big emotional game. And I do think that could really help the Cowboys with the energy. The Cowboys could absolutely win this game. I'm with you. And I think the other thing that we need to mention is that Philadelphia is coming off 2 very physical games. They played Green Bay in Lambeau, and then they played Detroit last week on Sunday Night Football. But that was in Philadelphia. They're coming to play in Dallas. Those are 2 Super Bowl caliber teams that they played. And you just wonder coming into this game what the energy level is going to be like. You've already seen them, talking. this team just looks like they're just dying to lose a game to kind of reset everything and get their focus back towards the playoff run. I'm going to pick the Eagles, but I think this is a 3-point game that is decided on the last possession.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to be a close game. Look, it's an NFC East game. I think it's going to be a really good, close football game. There's lots of different game scripts that can play out here. I didn't expect to feel like the Cowboys could be super competitive in this game, probably 2 weeks ago. But again, like, I just think that from what we've seen and where these teams are currently trending, despite the fact that the Eagles have won 4 in a row, for God's sakes, I still feel like the Cowboys kind of have a little bit more momentum right now and in a positive way. So we'll see how this works out.
And this is one of the benefits of making the Quinnen Williams trade. It just, not only do you get an awesome player, but it kind of gives some new energy to a team that probably really needs it, like coming off not only the Monday night loss to the Cardinals, but also everything that happened after that game. I think this team is going to be fired up, and I think they're going to be really ready. I don't think you're going to have players going to casinos before the game. So I'm excited, Landon, about the possibility here.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Oklahoma City, maybe, but probably not. Hopefully not.
All right. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen of the day. Make sure you check out the Locked On NFL podcast. Check out our podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy the game on Sunday, and we'll be back here on Sunday night to break it all down.